Evening, everybody. This is Dave Ender with Little Things from Dashboard. Let's think about something for a minute here. Think about some of the most valuable things in the world. What comes to your mind when someone asks you what's valuable in this world? A lot of people would say diamonds and gold and rare metals and things like that, right? And they're probably right. You know, diamonds are very valuable. Gold is very valuable. But let me ask you this. As an individual, are you not every bit as valuable as diamonds and gold and rare metals? And in saying that, think about, how do diamonds and gold become so valuable? You look at diamonds, and they're created after years and years and years of extreme pressure. And then they're finally mined, and then they eventually turn in, they're cleaned up and everything else, and then they're turned into a diamond. But they start off not as a diamond. They start off as a chunk of rock, basically, and through all the pressure, they become more valuable as time goes on. And if you look at gold, in order for gold to become valuable, it gets melted down. It has to be put through extreme heat to be made into anything. To be made into a gold bar, it's got to be melted down, shaped, formed, molded, and everything. The point I'm making here is, you as an individual, you can't expect to go through life and have great things and great success and have greatness just happen to you. We are all put through the pressures of life. We're put through the fire of life. We are put through all of these things that a lot of times we don't understand. And what I want you to know is that every time you get put through pressure and you make it out the other end, you now go from pressure to precious. You have now become a precious commodity with going through everything you've gone through to get to that point. And when you get put through the fires of hell, you get put through the fires of life, and you come out the other side, you are much more refined. You are much greater than you were before you started trying to get to a certain goal or make certain things happen. You know, God puts us through a lot of different challenges in life. And I say that because He's not just going to give us everything we want without testing our faith first. And in order for our faith to be tested, we are going to be put in some incredible, uncomfortable situations. And He wants to see how obedient we are going to be to Him. And are we going to be patient enough to follow His plan? Or are we going to go off the rails and, do our own thing and try to control everything ourselves? See, as we go through the different pressures of life, what we have to remember is, through all of these difficult times, all of these trials, all of these tests, all of these things that we are not understanding, we are being prepared for a far greater thing than what we are working on at this time. We are being tested and strengthened and put into situations that we just can't understand at all. And when we finally get to that certain point and we come out the other end, what we realize is all of those little obstacles that were put in front of us, people that were taken out of our life, people that were put into our life, people that were just kind of stuck in our lives for who knows what reason, because we're afraid to put them off to the side. We're afraid to get rid of them. And see, when people come and go in our life, that's God's way of telling us that they served that purpose in our life, and therefore we need to move forward and follow His plan. Those people were there for a purpose. Sometimes they're there for a great reason, and sometimes they're in front of us to slow us down from running on our own free will of thinking we know everything. Sometimes people are placed in front of us to keep us from being that runaway locomotive and going off the track. Sometimes we get fired from jobs because God wants us to make a change. He wants us to trust in Him, knowing that that job was only there for a certain time, for a certain purpose. And as we go through these times in our life, we have to try to understand that there is no greater plan in the world than that of which God has for us. We may never understand it. We may not agree with it. We may not want to do what it is that He is asking us to do. And you're probably asking yourself, how do we know? How do we know we're going down the right path? How do we know we're following God's will? How do we know if we're going off the rail and following our own will? Well, there's a few ways to know this. See, our bodies don't lie to us. And when you get that weird feeling in your stomach, or you get that weird feeling in your body like, this just isn't right, that should be your first clue to understand that, no, you're not following the plans and the steps that God wants you to do. That should be the first sign that you're trying to take control and trying to run on this on your own. Now, don't misunderstand me here, because God isn't going to make everything smooth sailing for us. He isn't going to make everything run crystal clear and perfectly smooth for us. Because what happens when we're in that position of being just running smooth and no challenges, we are comfortable and we don't grow. We have to be pushed and pressured and sent through the fire in order to come out the other side to be the person that God has planned us to be. So if we just sit in our comfort all the time, we're never going to understand what it is that God truly has planned for us, see? We'll never get to that greatness as long as we stay in comfort. We'll never find the true success as long as we sit in comfort. So I urge you, take time every morning to sit down in pure silence and try to understand what it is you are meant to do. Ask for wisdom, ask for guidance, ask for direction, and then clearly see as much as you can these plans that God is laying out for you. Sometimes you might not have any idea. Other times, everything might become crystal clear to you. But take the time and know that when you're being pressured and put through the fire, it's not because He doesn't want you to be successful. It's because He's giving you strength and making you stronger to be the person He wants you to be. God bless. This is Dave Andert with Little Things from the Dashboard.